Okay, so I think a lot of times we're going to talk a little bit nerdy. A lot of times people, when they think paleo, they think very, very, very low carb. And that's a big criticism with paleo, is a lot of people think that carbs are very necessary, that our brain needs carbohydrates, that our body needs carbohydrates to run on fuel. And I touched on this a little bit yesterday, but our goal is to take carb metabolism, what our bodies are most likely running on now, because that's what I was before I even heard about paleo. I was doing some whole grain bread, I was doing oatmeal, what other grains, like Ezekiel sprouted, things that I thought were healthy, but I still was very dependent on carbohydrates as my fuel source. And so what that means macro-wise is it means that it's more than I would say more than 40% of my calories were coming from carbohydrates. Dietary recommendations, if you just were to look at what the government says we should have, they say up to like 50 or 60% carbohydrate. And I just feel like there's a reason our society has as much heart disease and as much obesity cases and people overweight, and in turn going into diabetes and insulin resistance. There's a reason, there's something wrong. And so just a brief kind of visual for you guys of what I talked about yesterday is when you are carb metabolism, you eat, and then your body, when your blood sugar goes up via glucose, your body needs insulin to drop it down. And then you eat, body needs insulin to drop it down. And this is when you have carbohydrates, so this is glucose in your body. If this happens over time, more and more, so say you have more sugar and more sugar and more sugar, I'm messing up my graph, you need more and more insulin. And so what happens over time is you become insulin resistant, meaning you basically need more and more insulin to get the same effect, to drop down the blood sugar, and to where all of the systems dealing with your pancreas and your body's response to food becomes inhibited. And so we have to find an answer to this, because this is pre-diabetes right here. This is going into trouble with weight loss and adrenal fatigue, blood sugar regulation, all ties into a lot of health problems. So the easiest solution, it's not easy, I guess I shouldn't say, but a fantastic solution is using fat as fuel, because fat does not affect your blood sugar at all. So you get this really nice stable energy level. So now we're switching from carbohydrates to fat. And when you first, this whole video is, should you be very low carb? When you first switch, you do need to get to a point where it's low enough that you are able to have your body start oxidizing fat as fuel. That means, for the most part, so if say your diet is 100% of either carbs, a breakdown of carbs, protein, and fat. So what percentage comes from carbs, what percentage should come from protein, what percentage should come from fat. So for my athletes, this is going to be different for everyone, so that's why I always emphasize it's totally what works for you. For my athletes that are strength training, my goal here is, some of you might have heard of ketosis, so that's when you are less than 10%, like very, very, very low, less than 10%, that's not a percent sign at all. Oh God. By the way, I have a horrible handwriting. You guys will find this out quickly. Less than 10% of carbohydrates, you're hitting ketosis, which isn't my goal for you guys, because I do want this to be very sustainable. I think there's some benefit to ketosis, but that's not your goal. So less than 10% is too low. For the carbohydrates. If you know you have issues with blood sugar regulation, if you tend to have tendencies towards adrenal fatigue, or you know that you have issues with cortisol and you kind of always are feeling really fatigued and low energy, then this is something that I want your goal is about 15% carbohydrates, okay? If you are an athlete, or if you have thyroid issues, then we do not want to be under 20%. And the reason for that is I don't want you guys, it takes a while to get to this adjustment period fixed, and I also want you guys to be able to build muscle and get strong and start seeing definition. So if you're an athlete and you are constantly lifting weights and moving and you're in a CrossFit gym, 20% to 25% is a really good goal. I'm about 20% for mine, and I feel like I'm able to keep and build muscle without going over and losing my fat as fuel versus carbs as fuel. Anything over this, and we're kind of playing around the line of which our body's not sure what to do. So we are going through a shock period, but this is a good guideline. So 20% thyroid issues as well. I didn't touch on that, but you need a little bit more carbohydrate to keep your thyroid happy. 15% is going to be a great goal for someone that's starting off and they want to see changes, they want to lose weight quickly, but they also want to regulate their blood sugar. Less than 10%, I really don't have very many of you that I want less than 10%. Carbohydrates, you guys are getting these from not sugar and not from grains anymore, so you're getting these from sweet potatoes, and I have you guys do some potatoes. That's not allowed, so even some peeled potatoes would be good. Fruits, vegetables are gonna be your main source of this though. All veggies. I think it's crazy that people limit veggies. Vegetables are so good for us, so eat vegetables. Okay, so then protein, just briefly, because I'm going to get into this so much more. Protein for you guys, because I know you guys will have questions. I want, for the most part, women should for sure be at 100 grams. Okay, there's a lot of science that's going into, okay, I'm building muscle. I really want to be getting strong fast. So for my CrossFitters, it's more like 130 grams. But I know this is a big number for a lot of you guys to hit, and so that's a good goal. That's daily, 100 grams daily. So that's broken down into, say you had 4 meals, one of them being a post-workout protein shake, that would be about 25 grams at every meal, which is totally doable. That's like a good sized piece of salmon or a piece of chicken, 5 ounces. It's 30 grams is like a can of tuna, so it should be pretty easy for you guys once you start thinking this way. And then our fat, the protein, by the way, that's a percentage, usually percentage of 25 to 30%. So now you guys are seeing if we need to get to 100%, right now we're at 45%, we are starting, give or take 55%, and that's if my carbs are high. If I drop my carbs, 60%. If I drop them even lower, 65%. Don't freak out about that. We have a good video coming about this, but your fat being this high will regulate that blood sugar, and I promise once that energy switch changes, it took my body about 3 days, 4 days for it to really switch. It's life-changing. So stick with me on it. This is kind of a good guideline. Let me know what you think about this talk. I know this is way too long, but what you think about this talk and where you want your carbs to be. What's your goal? Do you want to be, are you an athlete? Are you running all the time? Are you in the gym all the time? Are you new to this? Are you just starting off? Give me a little guideline and pick your percentage. What do you think your percentage is going to be good for you? Yay, that's your video. Ah! I feel like such a teacher with my expo marker. Okay, I'll see you guys tomorrow.